Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics Sunday night live show. And we have got football back in our lives. We had a game of football last night, which was good. State of Origin, it was high scoring. BOG probably got robbed, but that's a story for potentially another day. Or we may be able to chat about that a little bit here. But I'm your host, Bales, and you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials. And we got a big episode tonight, chatting rookies. And a couple of our Fantasy Fanatic members are jumping on tonight. So, Taezer, mate, thank you for jumping on, mate. How are you? Good to have footy back on our screen.
Yeah, man, it was awesome seeing. I had low expectations for State of Origin, and it blew me away how much I was invested by the end of the game. So, yeah, great to have footy back, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly right. It was very, very good to see a football being kicked around on the screen. Tom, mate, good to jump back on for another pod, mate. How are you? And in June, you on the footy last night?
I didn't watch a drop of it. I was on the cricket field, and then I was driving home, and then I had England cricket on. So I didn't watch any of it. So we lost. So that's all that matters, and that's sad times.
Oh, it's all good. Well, I guess as the fantasy brain that you are, you probably think it was probably not a lot to take out last night. So why not watch your country play a bit of cricket and you play cricket yourself? So, but I'm sure that
Exactly.
football season is going to be stuck in your veins very, very soon. But we are talking rookies, and we had to get this man on. We had him on last season to chat rookies, and I thought we'd get him on once again. Rookie and draft expert. It is Dylan Alexander. Dylan, mate, welcome back to the pod. Good to have you back on, mate. How are you? And how's the well, I guess it's not really off season for you in a way because you've had to do all the draft stuff and you've all the rookies and all the sort of team preview stuff. But how's it been to start 2026?
Yeah, it's been pretty good, mate. We're doing a few live streams on the True Footy channel as well. So just kind of brushing up on my general AFL stuff before I get back into the Codes League and all the draft stuff. So still keeping busy. And I find this time of year it's good while it's a little bit quieter just to kind of bury your head into those like statistical profiles and best 23s and stuff like that because it just gives you kind of a bigger picture when you're looking at the draft as well.
Yeah, exactly right. But yeah, we're very much looking forward to picking your brain about these rookies heading into 2026. But we'll go through some updates as we always do for the past weeks. There's a couple of big updates, in particular one there. A bit of a general rookie chat as well before we do get into the individuals. Then we'll ask Dylan his top three rookies in each line. And then also a few sort of guys in around the market, honourable mentions there. And then we'll get to some listener player requests as well. So if there is any rookies that we do not mention and you guys would like those to be discussed at the end, chuck it in the live chat next to you guys and we'll chat about those towards the end there. But let's get into some updates. And don't think we can really take much from fantasy from the State of Origin last night. It was a great game. Really enjoyed it. I think State of Origin should and will be back for years to come. Hopefully, it'll be maybe SA playing one of them next year. Be good. I saw a team posted on the socials on the weekend. The Sandford account did that, and I thought, geez, that would have been a pretty nice team. But it was pretty incredible seeing all the best players in one. I think Warney tweeted and said, like my fantasy team all playing on the field at once, which was very, very good. We had some massive, massive scores. Again, probably can't take much into it, but the ones of note, Nick Dacos, huge game. Really, I think he got robbed best on ground, which again, he just isn't getting these medals at the moment, which is surprising. But he was best on ground, I thought, with 149 with 38 touches. Bont did his thing for a 120. Bailey Smith 116. Butters 116. Toby Green 101. And then Jesse Hogan was also very, very good for Western Australia. Very much got their best on ground with the 5 goals. But they're the hundreds. All in all, probably not going to take a lot out of it. Obviously, Jacob Wiedering went off injured in the first quarter, which didn't look great. Apparently, he is okay and all good. So hopefully Carlton get him back before the start of the season. And then just a few sort of minor injuries. So a few hamstring awareness. I think in particular, Sam Taylor. Yep, he's hamstring awareness, so you can't start him in your team leading into 2026. But Cal Archie, very disappointed. Another Crows injury there with a ham. It didn't sound because of hamstring awareness. It sounded like it's actual hamstrings. So that could be 3 weeks on the sidelines and real touch and go for round one. So they're the ones of note. But I think the biggest update from this past. Oh yeah, Matt Raufinger is okay. I didn't actually see that one. I must have missed that in the update.
Dislocated finger or something like that. Yeah, he couldn't complete the game. I think in a real AFL game, they probably tape it up and get him back out there.
Yeah, so hopefully he should be all good for the start. But Taezer, the one man that won't be okay for the start of the season, it sounds like the full season, unfortunately, is Tom Green. ACL on Friday matched him pretty big blow for GWS, along with Toby Bedford, who also did a real serious hamstring injury, so he's going to be out for a prolonged period. What does this do to the Giants midfield? So Bedford, they stopped the tag late last year, so I don't think that's a huge issue, but it means that there won't be any tags at all in the first sort of maybe month, 2 months of the season. But Tom Green is the big one. How does this midfield shape out? Obviously, would be probably with Oliver. Who's that third guy? Who's going to be the guy that steps up?
Look, I don't think a single player is going to be the real big beneficiary of this. I think Giants were already kind of showing that they're probably going to expose a few guys through there. Someone like Harry Ralston might get a little bit of a bump, but I think what most likely happens is I personally probably thought that Clayton Oliver might be just another 90 guy, and that Finn Callahan might only be limited to what he did last year. I think they've got scope now to really break out and make it a 1-2 punch in that midfield. And then there's other opportunities for Boston. I do think it could open the door for some rookies, because that half forward line is going to be a lot different than it was last year, where you had Darcy Jones, you had Toby Bedford. It's now going to create an opportunity where some of these guys are going to have opportunities just because they're missing those mainstays, and obviously opportunity create chances for rookies.
Yeah, exactly. It could be James Leake maybe gets opportunity in there. We saw him a bit at the start of last year. Toby Green, does he maybe get a bump? Obviously, Adam Kingsley came out and said that they're going to play him a lot more in the midfield this year. Could be 50-50 split, could be more in the midfield, but there's going to be a bit more midfield time. I saw an interesting stat. I think it was, I don't know if it was Vams or someone posted that like when he had a certain amount of CBAs that he averaged below 80, which was a bit of a surprise when I saw. Apologies, I can't sort of shout out the actual person that did it. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but is Toby Green of interest? 850k, if he has a good role, good score opening round, will he tempt you in the forward line?
He's priced at 81. I think it's just a little bit much. He actually had a really strong fantasy year last year, Toby Green, to get to that 81. I just think that's a little bit too much. It's kind of a speculative. It's not a speculative punt, but 32-year-old. So you say his record when he has loads of CPAs isn't as good as you think it might be. So I'd love to just sit and watch. He has that early buy and see how it goes before looking at him as an upgrade target, possibly going into upgrade season.
Yeah, one to put at least on the watch list if you are interested in Toby Green. Just a quick Meld one as well. Christian Salem wasn't involved in, or Chanquith Jathu, a bit of interest there as a unique, didn't take part in their match sim for Melbourne on Friday. Obviously, these match sims a bit sort of probably can't take too much from them just because there was a lot of players missing due to state of origin state of origin duties, I should have said, not details, duties that they had. But Caleb Windsor was very good. Apparently, viral reports was BOG or one of the best there as well. And all these notes also courtesy of the Warn Dog on DT Talk as well. So thank you, Warnie, for posting those. And at least don't have to sort of grab them from everyone. They're also made into the one article there as well. Xavier Lindsay off half back, so he will be someone to watch. If he's got that second distributor role behind a Christian Salem, he's someone that could be in the mix as a midfielder that we're looking at. West Coast, apparently McCarthy just dominated once again, but obviously West Coast got to take a pinch of salt. He's playing against the other West Coast players. Obviously, a great matchup. So we got to see how he goes against the opposition in the Pracky games there. Elliot Yeo looking good, but limited game time. Do you want to maybe taunt with going Elliot Yeo in your team or not? Schoenberg impressing as well, potentially as a half forward, and Dev Robertson playing a bit of half forward wing, a little bit in the midfield and going all right as well. Dersmer on a wing was good as well. Cooper Duff Titler, who we'll chat about soon as well, kicked 5 goals in the first half, then played a bit in the ruck. So we'll see if he can do a bit of that in the regular season. And then Josh Lindsay, Jacob Newton, another couple we'll chat about who were also impressive. Now, Taezer, one thing you said that we were going to chat about, Lockie McAndrew. Looks like it might be the number one ruck for the Crows. I've sort of taken me a little bit by surprise. I thought it'd just be, I've just been accustomed to it's just going to be Rob rolling around for another year and we'll do that. But Lockie McAndrew, 286K, maybe better suited for these rule changes. We heard Rob a few weeks ago saying that he's struggling at the moment to adapt to these rule changes. Lockie McAndrew, if he's named, is he just the de facto R3 that we just picked?
Yeah, look, I think the real question will be everyone should be starting him, but is he R3? Can you be a bit cheeky? Can you try it on at R2? And what does that look like? And what does that do to the rest of your team?
Yeah, Tom, I don't know about you. I couldn't do it at R2 personally. It would give me sleepless nights first couple of rounds.
If someone like a Luke Jackson had DPP to start the year, it could be an option because you always have that backup of sliding Luke Jackson or someone else with it, like maybe Rowan Marshall should get forward status in round 6, but obviously doesn't to start the year. He's exactly the same not exactly the same as a Dante Vicentini, but it's that there's that senior ruck in the club, and you just feel like if there's one game that they don't go so well, is the senior body gonna come back in, and that would really, really hurt your structure going forward.
Yeah. Dylan, sorry, Taezer.
I was just going to say another way that you can play it, and that I usually recommend is start him at R3, start your other guys there, and then if he shows that he really is the knockout pick, if he's scoring well, he looks like he's got the job security, then trade out your R2 and promote him, especially if there's someone else there, or especially if you've done something like a Liam Reedy somewhere around your team, maybe in your forward line or on your bench or utility. There's no bailout options if you go straight to R2. So if it doesn't work, it can just stuff up your whole team. I mean, Harry Boyd looked like that last year, and if you'd gone Harry Boyd, you would have spent weeks, trying to figure out how to correct that position. Yeah, I know people who hid behind best 18 for the first few weeks of the season, but they also ended up with going from Briggs to someone else because they couldn't get right the way up to the player that they actually wanted eventually.
Yeah, exactly. Now,
I think it's just, sorry to Bales, I'm just coming in on that as well here on the ruck thing, not to throw too much ambiguity in the hat, but I think from a strategic perspective, like you could look at it as an opportunity because we are seeing so many ruck rule changes coming in this season. Like it's probably no better time to be bold with something like that as well and go for something a little bit different. Because if you just go with if you go with the conservative option this year, you could look at that Harry Boyd example, which is a good one, but because we do have those changes, there's a narrative there to actually cling on to and say, well, Lockie McAndrew in this case could actually have that role and actually take it off Riley O'Brien, which would make it obviously like much more of a compelling decision.
Another positive, I know I mentioned Dante Vicentini. It could mean you could start Dante R2, McAndrew R3, having those two playing R2 and R3. You'd have to be very unlucky for both of them to fail spectacularly in the first few rounds. If one of them gets dropped, you can trade them out or put them at R3 as a red dot. Obviously, Dante's got some money on his head, but that could be a safer way of actually playing a cheaper, more value ruck in that R2 slot, which I think we're all craving and looking for. So it opens up that possibility a little bit more safely. And I think, as we're going to mention, a guy from my team who I think is going to have very, very good job security. Just how much is he going to score as an absolute last resort bailout pick?
Exactly. And I know that I was talking about this with Jordy and Guesty when I caught up with them. We were watching State of Origin after Live Golf yesterday, and we were saying that maybe does this open up Tim English and Brodie Grundy as starting options because you got Lockie McAndrew covering them in that round 3 bye. Not starting both, you can start one, but it probably opens up that you've got a ruck potentially covering them there as well. But one guy I want to ask you about, Dill, as well, is obviously because you follow these young players so much early in their career and early years. Josh Rochelli's looking like he's going to sort of play a bit more midfield. Do you see a breakout. I know that Gary Lyon quoted and said he's heard a Petrarca-like breakout for Rochelle this year. Does this sort of, I know that every player is different. They don't sort of all break out the same year, right? But is this sort of a similar trajectory that you could look at guys like Petrarca and you expect Rochelle to have this breakout in the midfield and potentially be an option for us in our fantasy teams?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is like there's always a difficulty projecting exactly when someone's going to break out, but all the signs are kind of there for Josh Rochelle. He's sort of played as that mainstay forward, and it looks like in the preseason so far there is actually that opportunity. Strangely, for someone like a Josh Rochelle, I think the Dan Curtin injury probably actually has propelled him forward a little bit. It looked like Dan Curtin was going to go inside. That opens up more midfield minutes. And we know from the back end of Adelaide's season last year and how they fell away in finals, it kind of was just having that extra midfielder in there just to win them. They sort of, it's that composure element for me. Like where the Crows kind of fell over in finals last year, they just weren't able to hit targets and play with that composure of a more experienced team playing against a Collingwood. And we know Rochelle has that. He's not necessarily a player that relies on a lot of physicality, but he's got nice feet. He's got a beautiful step on him. And he's someone that can kind of, find targets in traffic. So how much Matthew Nicks is going to get, I suppose he's going to have that urge to want to play him forward as well. And then the scoring's going to dry up. But I think we could, looking at a host of other players and where he sits in his career and how the preseason is tracking and the opportunity, I think it's right there for him to take it. He just has to take it.
Yeah. And I hope so as both a Crows fan and as someone that is keen to put him in my fantasy team, Taezer.
Yeah, I just wonder, Bales, do you look at maybe Rankin and Rochelle and just see that could be job sharing one of those midfield roles? So they both get 50-50 and one of them's always on the ball and the other one's always forward of the ball to give an option for the Crows.
Yeah, that's how I do. Well, that's how they should probably play it up. I think that we saw in the finals when Rankin wasn't there and Rochelle was obviously come back from his injury, it was back to the 2022-2023 Crows midfield. Just the same, just the sort of all the same player, vanilla midfield, just not getting it done. So I'd like to see maybe guys like Sam Bear, if they're in the team, to play more as a high half forward and come up to stoppage, but allow sort of Dawson to be there, Saligo to be there, and then one of Rankin or Rochelle to be one sort of 50-50 split mid forward. Round one will probably be not quite the tell of what's going to happen. I think preseason games will probably see more of what they want to do because round one, obviously Rankin won't be there. Round two, he'll come back in and we'll see how that mix lines up for the first game at home. I can't remember off the top of my Dogs, I think they've got at home. So it'd be interesting to see how it goes, but I do expect them to play that because Crows were one of the worst transition ball movement teams last year. Turnover, they were still one of the top couple, but when it comes to ball movement and transition, they were not very good. They were worse than some of these bottom teams. So if they get guys like Rochelle ranking up the field more, get more ball movement, I think that's only going to be better for the Crows. So I hope
that's the problem with a team like Adelaide, though, right, Bales? Like you've got the guys like Saligo and Berry that you mentioned. They kind of can't play anywhere else. So like a Saligo, for example, like he's only going to play in the midfield. You're not going to play him as a half forward necessarily or a winger or anything like that. So then it ends up falling on Rochelle and Rankin and these guys to play a little bit more forward. And I reckon a few years ago with the Petrarca, who you referenced before as a similar player to Rochelle, he was one that was able to play at that particular time. He was played as a full-time mid, but I think coaches are now looking at that type of player and they want to play them. They're getting the percentages are actually going up for them to play in front of the ball a little bit more and more inside forward 50 and rest there, and they want them to kick goals. They don't want them just to get 30 touches every week.
Yeah, exactly right. And get that mismatch going forward into the forward 50 instead of just sort of staying forward, and then they get involved there around the stoppages as well. Just a couple of other quick updates as well. Will Brodie going well in the middle again for Port, so looking like he could be there to start the season as well. Bourbon playing midfield as well, looking good. Marshall in defence. And then obviously Dante VST looks like he'll be the number one ruck at the moment there. Kitty Coleman apparently played a bit of half forward and wing in match sim, which probably didn't surprise a lot of us just with all those ball users back there. So probably one again not to start unless he blows out the water in opening round and you look to jump on after their bye if he is looking good at half back. Blackiston one for Essendon. We obviously know about that as well. Apparently Parrish looking really good as in the top three sort of Essendon midfielders there. Obviously, we talk about the Tom Green ACL on there. And I reckon that's pretty much about it. We've got the few Richmond updates, so I think we'll touch on them when we get into the rookies as well. So, but this podcast is one of our sponsors jumping on for the preseason is our friends at Keeper Fantasy. So Keep Fantasy back for 2026. I'm sure a lot of you guys are already stuck into a few of your drafts, particularly Dynasty and Keeper drafts. And in a couple of weeks, we'll have our Shiva drafts and all your sort of single season drafts kicking off. And there's a heap of new features on the Keeper Fantasy platform for 2026. So the most exciting bit is that position based scoring modes are here. So you can now award different points per lineup position, meaning forwards you can get points for just goals, mids for disposals, and rucks for hitouts. That's just a few things that Keeper has put to the platform in 2026. So make sure you guys head to keeperfantasy.com and see why it's the most trusted platform. So that's keeperfantasy.com and get your draft leagues all set up there, ready to go for the upcoming season. Now, this is what we've been waiting for, Dylan, but I think a couple of questions will probably go sort of as a bit of a broad chat as what should we be looking for in these rookies to start the season? What would be the one? Obviously, job security is great, right? But there's obviously a few other factors. What are you looking for in these rookies that gets them in the team firstly, but then also to score well for our fantasy teams?
I think predominantly you're looking at role from the perspective that I suppose you think about what makes a good rookie scorer, and it's usually like, you want them to be playing in the midfield or something like that. But I think the guys that went in the top end of the draft and are considered the most talented players, you want them to be able to actually play multiple positions so that they can have some sort of a developmental role. And usually the most fantasy-friendly role is something like a halfback flanker. We've seen that time and time again with players coming into the league. Harry Sheezel did that, Nick Dacos did that, and they were able to score pretty much in line with like a premium player from back there. But also if you have a player that's drafted to a particular team, we look at someone that's coming in this year, someone like a Dyson Sharp, who probably doesn't have that positional flexibility and he's not going to be able to play an outside role or a half-back role or something like that. But there's probably just that opportunity for him there based on the team as well. So they've got to be going to the right place, but then they've got to be able to play the role that is somewhat fantasy friendly and is available to them as well. So I think that's the main thing. And then kind of keeping an eye on what they did as a junior player as far as their numbers. Like, were they a guy that found the football easy? Do they have footy IQ? I think those are the most important things in finding a good rookie scorer, and not necessarily some of the things that you actually draft a player on, which is a lot of, sometimes things like athleticism and things like that, and how many different aspects they have to their game. I don't consider that such an important thing when we look at fantasy. You probably want someone that can play a fantasy-friendly role, and there's a role available for them at that team.
Yeah, exactly. Taezer, I know that you sort of want to chat about what's a good number of rookies to start, and can you have too many or too few rookies, right? Because they're the ones that make the most cash, but obviously we can't have a team full of rookies because we're going to score like 1,100 points and not sort of get the points that we need to win potential Hilux, league wins, whatever you're looking for. Sort of is it really just come down to rookies dictate structure, and you're probably not looking at maybe more than 3 or 4 per position?
Look, you need to have the right number of rookies. You need to have the ones that score. And how many that is going to change every year. It might even change from week to week. And being flexible is going to make a big difference. So, like, if we look back at last year, starting the season, it probably wasn't a great idea to have more than a couple rookies in your defence. But as the season went on and you had Luke Traynor, you had Zach Reed, you had Jackson Pryor, having 3 rookies on the field. And then I think in round 4, Riley Bice came in. So the teams that actually did really well were the ones that could get 3, maybe even 4 rookies on field, or at least 3 rookies on field, and then others earning cash in that line. So being able to change your structure based off who's popping off makes a big difference. And look, you can have too many rookies, because if you have too many rookies, you're probably going to miss out on the mid prices, and mid prices can score more than a rookie. And usually, because they've been in the game, because they already have an established price, they probably have better job security. They probably have AFL bodies, so they can last longer. They're not going to do what rookies usually do and get to round 4, 5, 6 and get rested or dropped. Can have You can have too few rookies though as well. Like they're the best score generators, and if you don't have them, you're probably going to be really mid-priced because you're going to miss out on having those primos anchoring your team because you're going to have to take haircuts everywhere else if you don't have the rookie. So it's a really important thing to get right, to make sure that you've got bailout options as well, because you're starting all of the only scoring players in your team, because if one of them gets dropped and your whole structure relies on it, then you're going to be up against it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's that balance is the big thing there between the rookies and mid prices. Absolutely. And having that balance team across the board. Tom, I think the one I want to ask you is when do you jump on the rookies? Do you jump on to start the season, and particularly in season? Do you jump on them like before they've made their debut, or are you someone that likes to wait a week? Because we've seen Lemon in the past. I remember obviously famously jumped on both. I think it was Will Graham and Sam Close. He got them. I think he got one before they debuted, and he got the second one after. And sometimes can really work if you get on the week before, because then you can jump on the rookie that everyone else can't get, or you can get the mid-pricer. How do you like to play it with those rookies in when bringing them into your side?
I think I prefer to see a week, just because I like to see, unless it's very, very obvious of what role they're going to fit, I just like to see them at AFL level. A lot of times, rookies, especially first-year players, can have great junior scoring, but might end up playing forward in a forward pocket or a back pocket, or literally be covering a play for a week. So I like to see a week. I like to see how they stand up at AFL level, and then jump on. Sometimes that's not possible, and if not, then we try and take in as much information as possible around how they're doing in their relative size twos, and whether you think they're going to have job security. Like, is someone out for 4 to 6 weeks and they've got 4 to 6 weeks run at it in a specific position? But I like to have a look at it just to make sure they're up to the level for AFL football.
Yeah, Taezer?
Yeah. So I'd just like to add on what Tom said, and kind of stitching that in with Lemon, and he made that double downgrade, but part of it was he's spoken before about looking at the circumstances in which they joined the team. I think Gold Coast had just played really poorly. There'd just been, I think, 4 established guys dropped, and he read the situation and saw, okay, Close's, established player. There's an opportunity. There's clearly been a reaction from the coach, and he looked at the tea leaves and went, you know what? If these rookies play well, which he thought they would because he'd done his research, they're going to get an opportunity in the team. Like, these guys ahead of him have been dropped. They're not just covering a 1-week injury. So I think really understanding the context in which a player's playing in joining the team, the time of the team they're joining makes so much of a difference. And it really is probably the last few ways that you can get a leg up in fantasy, because it's so challenging, is knowing and being able to read, like, why is this rookie getting a chance, and what's his likelihood of staying in the team. It's tough, and but I think that's the way to get ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Do a super chat here from Tim Ashworth. Thank you, mate. Saying, hi, Buzz, do you have a head-to-head league I can join? Not sure if I've got head-to-head league, if I'll set one up, but obviously we do have the, for anyone that is in the Patreon, we do have the open league, and there is some pretty nice cash prizes up for grabs as well. There's no set number yet, because the more people that join, the more cash that will be available to everyone. There'll be first, second, third that get it. So if you like to join the Patreon, also win some cash at the same time, it gets a bonus content. And no, Taezer, I will not be staying Sam Taylor and Tom Stewart in my side unless we get 1,000 patrons. So they've got a bit to go. So if you want to do that, and also get some cash prizes, you can head to patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. But the reason we're here, Dylan, we need to know what rookies we're looking at, and particularly what ones to be watching in the preseason, and then who you think will be best for us in the season to start. So we've gone through each position, as you said, got your top three, and you've got some honorable mentions. So it's up to you whether you'd like to go from 1 to 3, 3 to 1, if you'd like to go honorable mentions first. But take it away. We'll go defenders first, and you can sort of go whichever order you like.
Yeah, I don't like surprises, so I'm going to go starting with number 1, just get it out of the way. I've gone here with... This might be a little bit of a surprise to some people just because of where he was taken in the draft. He was more pushing back that number 20 position, but I've gone for Josh Lindsay, who sits at 278k as a defender. I just think this one works perfectly as far as how much of a ready-made player he is. I've seen him play multiple games against VFL opposition, so he can play against men. He's got excellent footy IQ, this guy. He just gets into the right spaces, uses the ball really, really well. And if you look at that West Coast team that he has just walked into, there are no good ball users off halfback. They were one of the worst kicking teams last year. They pretty much played a contest-to-contest brand where they just bombed it out and went again contest after contest. So Lindsay will give them a little bit of control back there. And I think, as I said off the top, when you're looking at fantasy-friendly roles, that halfback position is one of the best that you can come into as an AFL player. And this guy has pretty much been doing that consistently. He played a little bit of midfield in the Coates Talent League, but from a champs level, from a VFL level when he played there, he's always played as a genuine halfback flanker, so he knows the position so well, and he'll be able to walk straight into that and I think perform really, really well. I'm not saying he's going to be a Nick Dacos or a Harry Sheasel level scorer, but I think he's got all the pieces there to be really, really consistent and make you plenty of money.
Yeah. I think particularly with Brady Hoff, with the ankle injury, we're not sure if he's going to be fine for round 1. We haven't really had many updates, to be honest, about that. I thought we would have heard some about him. And Brendan Starcevic with, I know that Zave was getting into Ryan Daniels about this, but a minor ACL strain, which you hear ACL, you go, no, that's awful. But apparently it's just a minor strain. So we'll see where he sits. And then McCarthy midfield, there's the opportunity has opened up there for
Plus,
to slide into.
Plus, Liam Duggan got knocked out by Tom Gross in their intra-club as well. So there's probably like another spot for him there. And like they don't, even those guys that you're reeling off, they're not like a Brady Hoff. Like he's not exactly a ball user, right? Like he's not a genuine ball user off halfback. He's more of a kind of like a medium lockdown type guy. And he has even played in the midfield as well. So there's definitely a position of need. Number 2, I have gone for Jacob Farrow at the Essendon Bombers. Again, this one comes in from a positional point of view, and it's something that I think Brad Scott has liked to do. He had Archie Roberts coming in off the half-back line last year who did really, really well. Roberts looks like he's going to play a little bit more midfield time this season. He's been training a lot there in the off-season. I think Jacob Farrow is probably going to go to the half-back flank, and they'll use him as a ball user. He's an excellent kick of the footy, another high IQ guy, and he was a big accumulator for West Perth back in the Waffle last year as well. So I think he works there, and he will make a push for the midfield and he'll get some minutes there. But I actually think from a developmental point of view, you'd want him to be at halfback anyway. He's 314k. So he sits slightly higher than the next guy I've got who is a higher draft pick. But I think based on price to opportunity, Josh Lindsay and Jacob Farrow are the top 2.
Yep. So who's number 3 then?
Zeke Euland, which I think most people would probably be pretty familiar with.
Yeah, a few people I think are probably thinking they're like, oh, he's number 1. He's got to be number 1. But so how come you got him at number 3, not number 1?
Well, it's for me, it's just how stacked that Gold Coast team is. So my question back would be, where exactly is Zeke Euland going to play for the Gold Coast Suns? I think more likely than any position, it's a wing, and it's not a half-back role when you've got, Dan Rioli's there. Noble had a career-best season there last year. You got Will Powell as well, who could be playing midfield, but you're talking third distributor role. Plus you got guys like his brother Bodie Euland as well as an extra player back there that can use the ball pretty well. So I don't know if there's a genuine position. You could even see someone like Ezekiel Euland getting a role as like a high forward. I don't think he's even necessarily going to just walk straight into a wing. There's that Fiorini wing role, which probably makes the most sense. He's definitely not getting in the midfield though, is he? In that stacked Gold Coast side. So it's hard to see exactly where he fits. And we know positional, like where you get placed on the field has a big say in your score, right? So Zeke Euland, he's a pretty good scorer in certain roles as a junior, but he wasn't the most elite scorer across this entire draft crop either. So I think there's still question marks there on what his ceiling is as a scorer. He's an excellent ball user and he hurts you, but that doesn't necessarily mean he accumulates as much as some of these other guys.
Yeah, I think he'll be on our fields, I think, as long as he looks all right in opening round because he's got West Coast Richmond, right? But yeah, probably that one with being a wing, if it's a tougher matchup, maybe he's not going to go and get that solid score. As you say, like a Lindsay and Farrah, they've half back, they've got that sort of access to those points, particularly and West Coast. We think the ball will be back there a little bit. So I think that those are some good names there. Who are a couple of the guys in defence that you had just outside, sort of in the mix that maybe we've got to keep an eye on in these pre-season games?
Yeah, I think one of Zeke's teammates, Dylan Patterson, is probably someone that needs to be considered, and we need to watch him across the preseason a little bit more. But probably same deal as far as with Zeke goes. Like, where does he actually play? Does he jump ahead of a Noble or someone like that? Probably not yet. I think he's going to play, and he'll be in there somewhere. It's just what position they give to him is more of the question. Sam Grill at Richmond, I don't think he'll be such a high output guy, but I think he will get games early and is somebody that we have to look at, and he'll be an important player for Richmond in the future. Xavier Taylor at the Demons, but he's probably, he flirts with being a key position defender, which you don't really want. I think he's going to become a big ball winner in the future, but I can't see him being a major threat as a scorer just yet. You might be looking at similar to someone like a Luke Trainer from last year. Lockie Blackiston, who's probably going to get that number one ruck role at Essendon. He's a little bit higher and, arguable whether you call him a rookie, but he's someone that probably is in that sort of lower price range. Kai Fincher at St Kilda, if he gets opportunity, but it's a big if. Lockie Jakes at the Dogs after Lockie Carmichael went down with a bad injury. I think he's someone that could be used back there as a distributor. Harry Dean at Carlton, and maybe someone like a Harry Oliver or an Oscar Taylor at the Giants, but we're getting pretty speculative at that point.
Yeah. And I know a few names there, but I'll leave that to listeners if they want to suggest a few of the names in the comments there as well. So, as I said, we're going through all the positions. If you've got players that aren't discussed, you can chuck them in now. And if they aren't discussed, we'll get to them after. So, get them in the comments there, Taezer. You had something before we moved on to the mids.
I was just going to say, the one that you didn't mention that I really like, and he's been in my team for quite a while, is Jai Sarong. Jai Sarong was a great third tall at Box Hill. I think he averaged nearly 100 in the VFL, and Swans went pretty hard at him. There's a lot of match reports saying that he's going to be playing round one, and I think people should be paying attention to him. AFL ready body, and yeah, there's opportunity. Keep an eye on him.
Great shout.
Yep, I like it as well. Mid rookies. This is where I know that funny enough, we normally have these big names, but I feel like defence has been last couple of years of these bigger names. Have you got a few good names for us, Dylan, in the midfield?
I got some good names. The first guy is a 2024 draftee, and I think I don't know how much of a description I have to give this guy, but I think Jagger Smith is going to walk straight into that Carlton midfield and be a pretty high centre bounce attendance guy. He's a dominant centre bounce player. He's a dominant stoppage player. And probably like the only one of their midfield that is a guy that can kind of move from the inner circle to the outer circle really, really well. They've got a lot of big body bull type players in there, but he just gives them something a little bit different, along with like a Sam Walsh, somebody like that. So he's going to be massive, and he was a massive ball winner at junior level, 40 touches, 50 touches. He did it all really. So he'll be a dominant scorer, I have no doubt. It's just whether he can kind of get back from that knee more than anything else. Number 2, I have gone, and this one's tricky. He's a tricky player because I think he's from the 2025 draft crop, he's one of the best fantasy scorers, but he's gone to Brisbane. I'm talking about Dan Annable. So where does he get into that team? I don't know, but from all reports that I've heard, he's been dominant up there. And he's been playing a high forward role and scoring really, really well. And we sort of saw what a really, really strong fantasy player in Levi Ashcroft did last year. I can imagine Dan Annable doing the same. He's a really, really... He's just got all of the elements of being a top fantasy scorer. He's got the inside ball winning ability. He's got the endurance and running ability. He's a big body. He can tackle. So he's got inside-outside capabilities. He's good overhead. He can push forward and hit the scoreboard. So I think if he plays, you just have to pick him. It's that simple. It's similar to Levi Ashcroft last year. And I mentioned role being really, really important, and I don't know what this role exactly is going to look like, but I think he's too good of a player to miss. So the only way you would be giving this guy the wide berth is if he's not named.
Yeah. Well, it's music to my ears because I had no one pick in a dynasty draft, and I took Dan Annable, so I'm very, very happy that you're saying that. So, but yeah, as you say, Brisbane, pretty stacked team, so it's I think you'll be there. But I think we've shout out to at Darcy SC, so he's been down to a few Brisbane trains, and he's been on Twitter at these Brisbane trains saying that he thinks he'll be there. Only ran around one. It just depends, as you said, what that role will be, because he don't think he's going that straight to that midfield with some of the names there. There's guys like Zach Bailey that probably could have a lot more opportunity there, but they just can't because of the stacked names they got there. Number three,
similar flavour, different team and more opportunity for him here. I've gone with Dyson Sharp, who's gone to the Bombers. And again, just where they're at from a midfield perspective, they're just going to want to get these guys into that midfield as soon as possible. You had Jacob Farrows, Sharp, and also Sullivan Roby's the other one they took right up the top end of the draft. So he was clearly, along with Dan Annable, but at the National Carnival particularly, he was the biggest ball winner there. He averaged over 30 touches a game, bulk clearances. There's probably been, with Dyson Sharp, there's always been question marks around his outside game, which I think is a factor, but somebody that's ready-made, has played senior SANFL football consistently, played against men, he's got that big body ready to go. He's going to get tackles, he's going to get plenty of the ball in there, and he's going to get plenty of opportunity playing at Essendon. So I don't really see this one going wrong. Do I think he's going to go out there and out-average a Jagger Smith? Probably not, and that's why I've got him at number 3 on the list. But I think he's just going to be... The floor is just so high with this guy that I think that he's going to average something solid enough that you're going to keep him for most of the season and sell him off pretty late.
Yeah. No, I was hoping the Crows would get him and Eston would budge with the draft picks, but they did no such thing. But we got the Bison instead, so I'm pretty happy with getting him. Who are your midfielders on the sort of just in the honourable mentions there?
Yeah, I think the ones that people would be questioning would be someone like a Willem Dersma, who I think, again, he's just the type of player that he is. He's pretty lean, tall. As a midfielder, he's got so much scope to be a gun player, but I'm not sure what he scores in first year and where does he play. I don't think he'll be a full-time midfielder in year one. He'll be more of a utility and an outside player. So I've left him out, but I think he's probably still worth a look, and he's going to have that higher price being the number 1 pick. Harry Schoenberg, I watched the West Coast Intra Club, and he was really, really impressive in that. And I think if you're looking at guys like Dev Robertson and Finlay McRae is the other one, I think Schoenberg's definitely the guy that's in front of them, and I expect him to play in round 1 for West Coast. Modest scoring, I'd imagine, but I think he's someone to look at a low price. If Jack Dalton is anywhere near the Hawthorn starting team, I'd be considering him as a serious option. It's just whether he can crack into that gun side. Tyon Prindable at the Pies is training really, really well, and he's someone that can score, and I think he's someone that could be injected into that team for a little bit of youth. Sam Cumming at the Tigers, I think the scoring will be modest, but there'll be opportunity for him, and he's a superstar in waiting. And then Pat Rechko, who we talked about in the pre-show there. He's someone that he's a major endurance runner, and that ability to be able to cover the ground up and down that wing, I think, could be important for Richmond. And they've obviously gone after him late last season as a really, really role-specific player and someone that fits that need for them. So I think he could get games. And, he's not going to hurt you with the ball, Pat Rechko, but he can get a lot of it because of his running ability.
Yeah, I know, Tom, you've been pretty keen on him. He's been in and around your team since that pre-season open. The one I wanted to ask you about, Dylan, though, that I forgot to ask you about pre-show, was Jack Carroll. Been getting a bit of buzz in the pre-season as that second distributor at Saints with Nasai moving into the mids. 332k, obviously didn't work at Carlton, didn't get that midfield opportunity, went to Saints, had a bit of injuries and stuff last year, didn't get to really break into that team. But if he's got a role back there, do you see him being a guy that can score?
Yeah, and if somebody's moving into that role and they've got it and they're named in round 1, I'd definitely be looking at somebody like that. The only thing that I'd question about it is when I look at St Kilda's players back there, like, does he actually get into that team for round 1 when you've still got to fit in, not that he's the same role, but like an Alex Tyree back there. You got players like Toby Travalia as well that could be, that are high draft picks that could be looking at one of those distributor roles. So I'm not sure. And you've even got like the Irish guys at O'Connell, I think, back there as well.
Yeah, Liam O'Connell.
There's another one that's played a bit as like a medium sort of hybrid defender. So it's possible, and someone's got to get it. Angus Hastie's another one. So names are coming into my head here. So there's a lot of guys, and someone's going to get that role. I think you can probably make a play for almost any one of them if they get it. Whether it's Carroll, I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Hasty gives me sleepless nights after last year. Going him over Xavier Lindsay and Levi Ashcroft will be, all bunched in with Sam Taylor, Tom Stewart. There you go. I got another mention of my two boys yet again. Before we chat about the other couple rookies, obviously we do have Keeper Fantasy as one of our sponsors. We also do have Game Day Squad, who will be our sponsors for the entire 2026 season. So been good friends of the show for a number of years now, and they're back for 2026. And obviously one of the best, if not the best, Dynasty platform that you can go across, bringing the best of FIFA Ultimate Team, NBA 2K, My Club, whatever you want to call it, Team Coach, Select Footy Cards, Collecting His Kids, and AFL Fantasy all in one. It's very, very good. And they do more than just AFL. They've got cricket, they've got the NRL, they've got AFLW when that comes around, they've got the NBL, IPL, which will be starting not in the distant future as well. So if you guys do want to head over to Game Day Squad and register, gamedaysquad.com.au, and use the code BAILSDT at sign up, you get yourself some free packs, which is always nice to get started on your journey there as well. And they've got brand new competitions as well this year. So if you guys do want to check all that out, make sure you do head over to gamedaysquad.com.au. Now, Ruck rookies, probably not too many, Dylan, to talk about. Probably really a couple that we've got there. But obviously, there's probably the one drafter, which I'm sure we chat about first, but then obviously we chat about another Ruck, the Crows, that might get a bit of opportunity as well.
Yeah, Rucks and forwards, it gets a little bit more grim from here as far as from a scoring potential. But yeah, Cooper Duff-Tytler, I suppose. He kicked 5 goals in the match sim the other day for the West Coast Eagles. He'll play. I think he's absolutely going to play. So he's someone that you can place there as a Ruck rookie. But I don't think the scoring is going to be outrageous. I mean, he's kicked 5 goals in the intra-club, but I think he was playing on Harry Taylor, the coach. So it's not going to be that easy for him all the time, right? And I don't really know where he is going to play. They might use him as a bit of an aerial winger where he's a bit outside. They might use him a little bit on ball even. I think they might use him as a sort of third key position forward as well. So even the way that he kicked those goals watching the intra-club, it wasn't like he was, a super sort of crash and bash guy in the air. It was a lot of stuff at ground level. So he almost played a little bit more like a small forward and took some uncontested marks even down there. So he wasn't playing against much opposition. He'd still be one that you'd probably have to consider, albeit that the scoring would be modest. We mentioned Lockie McAndrew. I think, as I said off the top, for me, if there's one year that you're going to go rogue with Rucks, it's probably 2026 because you've had those big rule changes. You don't get that very often. So significant rule changes mean that you can be a little bit more bold, I think. And I'd be looking at the North guys. I'm looking at, Tristan Sherry's clearly going to be the number 1 ruck, but I think North Melbourne will play, and a lot of teams will be playing that second ruckman. North don't have an obvious, for example, the Crows have someone like a Riley Thilthorpe who they could play as a ruck, but I don't think North have that obvious second ruck who's already a forward that can play in that position. So you're looking at Callum Coleman-Jones, who played in the intra-club in the A team, and you've also got Taylor Goad as well, is another player that could be coming in there for North. Ned Reeves at Hawthorn would have to be someone that you're considering as a ruck option as well. He's a little bit more expensive. Again, he's not a rookie. But because of these changes, all of a sudden, your Lockie McAndrews, your 210 centimetre guys, Ned Reeves is in that same category of being 209 centimetres, I think. They could change a little bit the system of the clubs. Lloyd Meek now becomes vulnerable as a ruckman who's more of that wrestler. Can't jump, doesn't get off the ground. He's more of a follow-up guy. So I think we could see a lot of changes. You're going to have to watch these practice games in the next couple of weeks to see how that looks, I think.
Yeah, I think Reeves, particularly in draft, if you're picking Meek, I think you've got to get Ned Reeves. You've got to get the handcuff just in case one gets injured or, as you say, May Reeves becomes a bit more prominent there, and then you've got that handcuff there. But, Tom, I just want to quickly ask you as well about CDT, one of your boys. Mm-hmm. If McAndrew's not, let's say, McAndrew's not there, and CDT was the 1R3 option we're looking at. Obviously, Reedy's there as well, but probably a few more people will be looking at him more as a forward. But CDT, is he worth going over a red dot? I think is the question, right? Because we've seen previous years like Harry Boyd, almost more of a nuisance as a purple dot, doesn't make a lot of cash. CDT's going to be there, but is he going to make enough money to warrant starting him over, say, a red dot where you can loop and get that VC score?
So you're looking, can he make 200 to 250k within the first 8 to 10 rounds? That's kind of what you're looking for in one of these rookies. And I just don't see him doing that. I don't see him averaging 55, 60. I see him averaging between 40 and 50. And he might have a few pop games where he might kick 2 or 3 goals, get a few uncontested marks against maybe a small defence where he can play as that third tall or gets on a hot wing. So I don't think he can do that. So as a result, I probably would start a red dot. The only thing that would sway me is in a practice game against a good opposition. He looks AFL ready, not playing against the Eagles B team, who wins one game a season in the waffle.
Yeah, exactly.
So
brutal.
Now there was one name that you said pre-show as well, Louis Emmett, potentially one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, keep an eye on him. I mean, again, like when you're looking at that risk versus reward and like how much can he actually score, but he has been training as a key position defender, and we know that the Western Bulldogs have been looking for someone to play in those positions. They're very undersized back there. Rory Lobb played in the State of Origin and looked absolutely atrocious the other night as well. So they need those guys. They need key position defenders, and he's someone that they've drafted to come in and play that role. But we are talking about a guy that's going to be playing, similar to Cooper Duff-Tytler, he's going to be playing in his first season as a 200 centimetre guy. So I don't think key position defender and first year player probably don't bowl too well for scoring. But he's just, I suppose he's a watch as far as like having a decent role back there.
Yeah, exactly. I think the difference with McAndrew and even a Blackiston, right, is McAndrew's 25 and Blackiston, I believe, is 27. So mature age guys. They've got the body that can come in and score, hopefully, well for us there. And finally, we get to the forward rookies. And as you said, it's not, again, probably a bit dire when it comes to, I guess, where the whole forward line is just really, we got maybe Sheasel, Flanders, and then it's real speculative picks pretty much after that. We're really banking on sort of some breakouts and some guys to come in. But have you got a couple of names for us?
I got a few names. I mean, similar flavour again with the Gold Coast Suns. I mentioned Zeke Hewland and Dylan Patterson, but I think if fit, again, here you got to be looking at someone like a Leo Lombard, top 10 pick from 2024. If he could get in and consolidate a role as a high half forward, someone that gets up to stoppage, and you could throw him in the mix there in some CBAs even alongside your Matty Rouse and your Noah Andersons. I think he's someone that they really want to get games into, and I think he would be ahead of younger players like a Jake Rogers, for example, a Will Graham going forward. So he'd probably be someone I'd have right up the top. But again, like Gold Coast are a club, they're up north. You don't hear a lot from them, and you don't get the training report. So I'm not sure where Leo Lombard sits, but I think on quality, he was a player that I absolutely loved in 2024 as a draftee. He's got a man's body, and if he gets games, he will score well. I'm a North fan, so Lockie Doveston, I think, has to be considered. I watched the intra-club there the other night, and he was just the work rate of him compared to, and we talk about small forwards and it being probably the worst position from a fantasy perspective, but Doveston's a little bit different to some of these other guys, like say Latrell Pickett, who went in the draft to Melbourne. Doveston really does work up to stoppage, and I think he's going to be a big part of North Melbourne's ball movement game, even coming off half-back. He pushed up the ground a lot in that intra-club game, took a lot of uncontested marks, and then was just pretty much always, his representation at ground level was just really, really good, whether it was inside 50 or just getting up to the contests up the ground as well. So I think he's going to be in and around it. He kicked 3 goals in the third quarter. He's not going to do that every weekend, but the work rate is there and the points are going to be available for him. So I've got him as the second one. And then I've got less of a rookie, and I've gone with Dev Robertson as number 3. If he can get into that West Coast team, again, there's probably a position available for him. There probably needs to be in that midfield group 1 injury for him to actually get in, because I think they'd be looking at going one of, Schoenberg, Robertson and Finlay McRae. So I think he can still get in there though, as that kind of bigger bodied, stronger player that lays pressure and stuff like that. And the scoring would still be modest, but because of his forward eligibility, I think he comes into the game pretty strongly. After that, you're looking at guys like Taj Houghton probably, there's Harvey Harrison, there's Matthew Jefferson as a key position forward who looks a little bit better in the preseason this year. I like Jesse Detoli at the Sydney Swans. He's someone that could get game time this season. You've got McRae. Yeah, there's a role there, absolutely. Jacob Newton is another one at West Coast Eagles, but none of these guys, I think, scream massive scoring. And then you're looking speculative, but like a Braden Cook, Bales, you probably have some info on him as a guy that's...
I was just about to say shout out to Jordox, who is solo parenting tonight, so it was not to jump on, but he was saying, he said, hello fellas, question for Dill, thoughts on Braden Cook's new role at half back. So as a Crows fan, I'm sort of looking at it going, I don't know how he fits in the defence, right? Because they've got a number of guys, and I'm almost hoping that an Isaac Cumming moves back into defence because Mark Keane's injured, so it's just a light for light. Jordan Butts comes in and for Mark Keane, and that'll be how that goes. But I'm sort of hoping an Isaac Cumming goes into defence and becomes the mate, because Crows don't have a main distributor. They've got guys that will try and distribute. Like they've got some nice players like a Miller, Hinge, but none of them scream main distributor. Like you look at St Kilda, they had 2 of them, and they've had the luxury of now moving one of them, become one of the best mids in the comp. You look at all these some other teams of like Giants have obviously got both the Lockies, Ash and Whitfield, both there. So every team's got at least one, barring a couple, and Crows are one of those teams that don't have one. So I just
Devil's
don't
advocate
know.
though. Devil's advocate, Bales, like there's a role there because their 2 highest ball winners from the back half last year were Rory Laird and Josh Worrell. So Worrell's an excellent player as a 1v1 defender and an intercept defender, but he's not necessarily the best ball user back there. I would say that the best ball user back there is probably someone like a Wayne Miller, but he only averages about 15 touches a game. So there's if somebody can find the footy back there and be that guy, there's definitely a role. Because I don't think you want this modern Adelaide team, you don't want Rory Laird getting 25 touches back there. You want somebody else doing it.
Well, I do. I want Rory Laird getting 25 touches back there, but hey, but maybe for the Crows to go well, maybe not as much. But yeah, they're the rookies. So as you said, like there's probably not a huge amount of forwards, but I think the 2 that you used to keep an eye on is Leah Lombard, Harvey Harrison, particularly because those 2 have been in the system. They play opening round. They score right in round 1. You get that double cash rise after round 1. And I think that might be what we're looking at more so in the forward rookies. Then obviously, as you said, like a Dev Rob and Doveston there, probably a couple of good ones. So we'll have a couple there, but maybe we might be going a bit deep with some speculative guys on our field.
Yeah,
just go
I was going to say Jesse Detoli. I'd probably consider Jesse Detoli seriously as well at the Swans.
As well, yep, if he's in the team, which as you said, I think the role could be there for him. So yeah, another one definitely to keep an eye on. We've got a question from Ben HD here saying, in a dynasty league, who would you take first, Annabelle or Yuland? Well, I had that exact same choice, pick one, and I went down Annabelle, and that was particularly after hearing your chat deal with Jordox on Finders Keepers, which Jordox can't plug it tonight, but if you haven't checked out Finders Keepers, make sure you do. A good friend Jordox, obviously doing a very good job there, but you guys talking about that, and you guys would say Annabelle, so it is Annabelle for you, Dill?
It's Annabelle. It's definitely Annabelle. Just more avenues to scoring. I think there's an argument that Yuland's a better player, but Annabelle's always going to score a lot of points just because of how multifaceted he is with it, and the ability to tackle a little bit more, go inside, the bigger body. Just so many avenues to score. I think about someone like a Josh Dunkley when I think about Dan Annabelle. So he's probably been one of the top fantasy scorers in the game for the last 10 years, I imagine. So Annabelle.
Yep, I like it. Mitch Finn says he just traded Jagger Smith and Zeke Yuland for Colby McKercher and Xavier Lindsay. So there you go. Xavier Lindsay and McKercher are a couple of good ins, but Jagger's someone I'd like. So maybe a 50-50 trade there. Next question we got asking, is Rob injured? I don't believe he's injured. It's just the fact that it is looking like McAndrew's taking to these rule changes better and might be looking like going there instead. Aaron Willoughby says he reckons Dyson will be the best rookie mid of all of them. What have we got here? Up the Crom said thought. Well, yes, Up the Crom as well. He also said thoughts on Conor McDonald after what Sam Mitchell said, mate. I don't know. Who knows? He comes out and says, Mitch Cleary, that Conor McDonald's playing predominantly as a forward and he's trained middle pre-summer, and then he goes on SEN, and then he says that Conor McDonald's going to be playing a fair bit of midfield. So opening round, that's all I'll say. Just watch there, see what the role is. Who knows what's going to be happening there? Because that was one of the updates I probably should have said as well that I missed there as well. The other one being Errol Goulden. Looks like he'll be more inside this year with Sydney assistant Ben Matthews saying that they want to get him in there. The quote that he did say as well, if anyone missed it, I did post it on X earlier in the week. The correct quote was, Errol wants to spend a little bit more time through the middle, and we want him to with his ball use and how he gets up and down the field in transition. Errol was certainly trained as an inside mid majority of the summer. He's had an uninterrupted summer, and he's shaping more as a midfielder. So, Tom, I personally think it's a very, very good thing. A few people have asked me, do you think it's a good or bad thing? I think it's a great thing, being he'll be in the midfield, he'll be in the centre of the ground, his ball use will be great. Heaney's still number one tag guy. Do you think it'll be a good thing for Errol in the midfield?
I'm going to say yes, but on the proviso that he does still able to get the outside ball. Errol's score build was always very mark heavy, which is great. And he playing on a wing, more space, more ability to get that mark heavy game. However, I just worry that he's going to turn into an accumulator. I think it could be a good thing as long as he can keep that mark count high.
Yeah, exactly. And the hope is maybe those tackles also potentially take that increase. He's playing a bit more inside.
I don't see him as much of a tackler as some other bodies who've gone in there. I might be wrong. I'll happily be wrong. I love Errol. He's got to keep that mark and tackle like combined number high. If you can do that, it's going to be absolutely excellent.
Yeah. And then just the other update I thought I'd say as well, Josh Carbat, Jason and Francis saying that he'll start the year a bit more managed up forward instead of in that midfield. So that's another name that maybe opens the door for a Will Brodie. So keep an eye on him in these pracky games there as well. We did, Shannon was saying here, we have to wait for the pre-season gains for the Rucks, but if Origin was anything to go by, it might be best to go the cheapest options at the start because they'll all go down in value. The only thing I would say with those Rucks from last night was that there was 4 really good Rucks and they perhaps played about 50% time on ground each. Their scores were a bit lower, but Taze, did you notice anything with the Ruck rules? I know we can't take a huge amount, but did you notice anything from last night?
Look, just that the game was really on the outside. It wasn't really like a stoppage, tackle grind kind of game. So I wouldn't read too much into it. Let's wait and see what the preseason games look like. But only that there's not too much you can read into it. I did want to read a question out because it's something that I've been thinking about as well. At Sheep's V6U, what do you think of Joe Berry? I loved him. I really wanted Freo to get him in the 2024 draft, I think it was, and I rated him so highly, and I was almost surprised on, how not up to AFL level he looked because I thought he was going to. Do you think there's a bit of word out from Port that he has actually clicked this season? What do you reckon, Dylan?
Yeah, I'm a big fan, and I saw that question too, and I actually forgot to include him in the document, so that was a bit of an oversight. As a forward-eligible player, I think he would definitely be someone that you'd be strongly considering, and everything I've heard out of Port Adelaide as well, that he is starting to put it together. Of course, he's probably still going to play mostly as a high forward, but I agree with you. I actually tipped him last year to win the Rising Star Award, and he was absolutely nowhere near it. Like, I thought he could have been in the mix. So I probably wouldn't tip a forward to win that award in the future again. But it's a difficult one. It's the only thing is with Joe Berry and that Port Adelaide team, I think they're going to struggle a little bit this season, but at the same time, all of their quality is around that midfield group. So there's not going to be a lot of access to points for him there. So he's going to have to do it. He's still going to have to do it as a high forward predominantly. So even if he has kind of come a long way, are the points actually going to be there? I'm not 100% sure. But again, he's going to be a watch in the preseason games, but someone you'd have to consider for sure.
Yeah, he's $415K for anyone that was wanting to know his price, but obviously he's got that very good run to start the year. So maybe the high half forward, that could be a pretty nice opening 4 games. So one definitely to keep an eye on. Phoenix has got a couple of names here that we didn't touch on, basement defenders, but Josh Gibcus, Bo Allen. Obviously, Gibcus being more of a lockdown to key defender, Bo Allen being a bit more of that sort of a bit more of a lockdown defender. Do you see any of those guys, either of those guys, Dylan, being potential options?
Not really, to be honest. I think Bo Allen's struggled a little bit to get up to speed of AFL level. I think he's one that is going to get opportunity at West Coast, and I think Jack Hutchinson's injured for the beginning of the year, so there's probably a bit of an option for him to play wing. But he's just never really been someone that's won a lot of the ball, even at junior level. Averaged between 15 and 18 touches at most levels at juniors, so wouldn't say that he's really someone that you'd be looking at as a fantasy option. And who was the other one? Gibcus, was it?
Yes, yeah.
I think he'll be a genuine lockdown key position defender. So like those guys are a bit hit and miss. I mean, I remember last year, I think it was was Zach Reed last year a player that I didn't think was going to be able to score, but he's got incredible ball use for a key position defender. He actually averaged more in the AFL than he did, I think, previously in the VFL. So that's really interesting. But I don't think Josh Gibkiss is a guy that they're going to want to get the ball in his hands as much as someone like a Reed. So I'll say no at this point.
Yeah. I guess Essendon just like picking those guys that they reckon they'll be better fantasy players in the AFL. Nick Martin was the same thing. Didn't dominate at waffle level or anything like that, but came in and is one of our best fantasy players that we love watching. Tim Ashall with Super Chat here as well. I sent a few minutes ago. Apologies, mate, for there. But he said, still interested to join my league, Bales, with the code there. I will, mate. I just want to get all my leagues sorted first. We'd like I was on Guesty, getting the Content Creators Cup sorted just to make sure that was the top. So I knew that I could reference that when we go to pods. But yes, I will. Tim, and for anyone else that wants to join there, if they're watching on video, the league is on the screen. 52D0L7NF if anyone wants to join that as well. But thank you, Tim, for the super chat. Got a couple more here before we do wrap up. We got Blues Bagger has got two names. So Sam Butler, Dylan, a little bit more expensive. He's more closer to 500k, but maybe if we don't love these cheaper guys, we have to spend. So 489k for Sam Butler, and also Angus Anderson, I believe he got the best on ground in the Sandford Grand Final, if I'm not mistaken, for Sturt, and was sort of a bit of a surprise pick for Collingwood there. Do you see, well, firstly, Sam Butler and then Angus Anderson, your thoughts on those two?
Sam Butler, small forward for Hawthorn we're talking about there, right?
Yeah, he's been playing a bit more mid. He's been getting a bit of opportunity up the ground when he's in the team. Maybe with Hawthorn, a few injuries. Warple left as well. Day not there.
Yeah. I mean, my reaction is that I would say that Hawthorn would favour guys like you said, Connor McDonald, Cam McKenzie, Josh Ward would be more likely to take over those places. And I think he would still be playing that'd be a fairly speculative pick, I imagine, at 500k to go after someone like a Butler. You'd have to see something pretty good from him. Anderson's probably more interesting. It's just Collingwood, just the stage that they're at. Like, how many of these younger guys are going to get into the team? I think we'll see a few of them. You've got Will Hayes, you've got Charlie West, you've got Prindable, who I mentioned before, who are probably opportunities to also get into the team. But also, like, they're still a pretty stacked team, and they still have a lot of these older guys on the list, and I don't know if they're going to move past them in 2026. So it's a trickier one, and a guy that I haven't seen as much of because he wasn't playing in the under 18s. He was more of a, as you said, like a Sandford senior player.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't know much about him. I just knew that he was best on ground in the Sandford Grand Final. So it'll be interesting to see how he does go. Taze?
I just wanted to jump in on Collingwood, and that is that their young players. They've got such a big gap in their experience. So they've got all these guys with 200 plus games, and then they've got young guys and, inexperienced, untried guys. Yeah. So really just keep an eye on how Collingwood are going, because a lot of people think the wheels could fall off for Collingwood this year. I'm one of them. And if that happens, they have to get games into these guys. They've got to test out and see if someone like a Harry Dimatia, who's been on the list for 2 years, I think, without getting a game, or maybe like one or two games, like they're gonna give him a game and see if he's worth keeping on the list again. Sam Swadling's a guy who scored really well, but doesn't. Is he up to the level? What kind of roles is he going to have at AFL? Dylan, he's one. What do you think about Swadling?
Well, I don't think Sam Swadling is going to get near the team until a player like Ned Long is out of the team. I think they're basically a like for like. It's that big-bodied mid that probably doesn't work that well in transition. I think Swadling's that same sort of player. So I think Ned Long's ahead of him, and you're not going to play two of those guys. So if Ned Long got injured, maybe, and they've moved on a player like Tom Mitchell, who's more of that, contested inside clearance type midfielder. So maybe then, but yeah, I always with Swadling, he's been a major ball winner at junior level, but you kind of wonder what AFL traits that he has, and if it's gonna cross over. So opportunities are an issue, and I think even the way that he plays at AFL level could be an issue as well.
Yeah. Up the Croms is asking us also, Bales, how many Port players have you got? Yeah, I've got 4, and I've only got one Crows player, so I'm not loving it. to be perfectly honest. But that good early run for Port is definitely twisted my arm there. We'll go 2 more here and we'll wrap up here. So Rolling Lockout Pod was thoughts on Lockie Jux. I know you briefly mentioned his name there, Dylan, but feel like Dogs have always got a 230k Rook, Sam Davidson last year that they always seem to find their way in the team. But Lockie Jux, he's had a decent preseason. Your thoughts on him? And Cooper Hines also from Double Z was also asking about Cooper Hines. I thought I'd just sneak him as well, being another Dogs player as well. So your thoughts on those 2 dogs?
Yeah, so Lockie Jakes particularly just because of the role that he plays. He's that sort of medium defender, can distribute, but also do a little bit of intercepting as well. So I think there's a role for him. I think Western Bulldogs have a weakness in that area. And a podcast I did earlier, I talked about Lachlan Carmichael, who was a player that they drafted this year that I thought had a really good role opportunity there for him at the Dogs. But Lockie Jakes might be the guy that can take that role as a kind of second fiddle distributor to someone like a Bailey Dale, because I think there's a weakness there. He'd be one that I'd be absolutely looking at, and a big watch for these preseason games to see what that role looks like for him. Cooper Hines is a little bit different because the Dogs are still absolutely stacked in that midfield zone. You could maybe argue that they don't have that kind of big-bodied inside first possession player that Cooper Hines could be, but you've still got like Bontempelli, you've got Treloar still playing, you've got Libby, you've got Ed Richards in there. So I don't see him getting midfield minutes. He'd have to be doing it as a forward. Could he play as sort of like a half forward? He's probably more of that like hybrid type as a forward, like a third tall. So I'm just not sure. He could get games. I don't think the scoring opportunity is going to be there for a Cooper Hines, though, in that role. It'd have to be as a midfielder. So I'd say no to Hines, yes to Jakes.
Yep, I agree with that as well. And unfortunately, that is all we have time for. There were a huge amount of questions that we didn't get to. Apologies that we didn't get to those. Hopefully, we'll be able to answer a heap more of those as we have got now games of footy now. We've got pretty much every weekend now up until end of September we have football, which is very, very good for us footy fans there. But Dylan, mate, thank you very much for jumping on with us. Your expertise and knowledge has certainly helped us a great deal. It's been a pleasure getting on once again, mate. Where can people find you across the socials, and where can they find your YouTube channel? Because you obviously got a lot of really good content, not only there, but also doing some good stuff with True Footy as well. Yeah,
so draft stuff is on my main channel. Dylan Alexander follows draft, so you can kind of find... I do a few tactical clips of broader AFL stuff on there, but also the draft stuff, particularly when the season gets going. And then True Footy as well. We do a weekly live show on there, which is just more kind of generic AFL based, but that's a lot of fun. Been doing that with Jesse for the last couple of seasons. So True Footy channel, and that's called Footy from the Flat as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Make sure you guys...
Just lost the host.
You just lost the host.
Bales.
Jumps back on. Yeah, sorry, Dylan, keep going with your pod though, mate.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it there. Bales, we just lost you for a second, that's never happened to me before on a podcast where the host has disappeared.
It's very, very annoying when that does happen. For some reason,
I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'm here. I don't know. But
I've got you, Bales. I've got you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this is what happens when you do live shows. Crap like this happens. But I accidentally pressed the button on my mouse, and it's the back button. But I didn't realize it was the back button. I accidentally grabbed the mouse to move it, and it meant me back. So, but there you go. There's some gremlins in the system that hopefully pre-season will get them out of the way there. And Jordox obviously reacted there as well. So thank you, Jordox, for that. Tom, mate, where can people find you across socials if you can hear me? No,
I literally can't hear what Bill is saying.
Yeah,
Tom, if you can hear me, mate, I'm just.
I can hear you, Dylan. I can't hear anything.
Oh, you can only hear me.
Yeah, well, you can find Tom at Tom_Howes_. So I'll say that there. So we've got some gremlins at the very end of the pod. Taezer, mate, where can the people find you across the socials? I'm sure you can hear me.
Yeah, absolutely can hear you, mate. And you can find me at Taezer87 on X.
Yeah, beautiful. And you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials, hopefully not stuffing up any more of these live shows at the very end, but hopefully if you've stayed around this long, it might give you a bit of a giggle there. If you did enjoy it, make sure you do smash a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers, so we're about 750 away or so. So if you haven't subscribed, help us to reach that big goal as we are going there for the season. Taezer, you had one thing?
Yeah, and just please, everyone, you have the opportunity to do the funniest thing and get Bales starting both Sam Taylor and Tom Stewart in his fantasy team for 2026. Please subscribe and be a Patreon member this season.
Yeah, I'll take 999 subscribers, so then I don't have to do this. I don't want to go over 1,000. So, but no, I appreciate the support, and yeah, if you do want to see that happen, maybe you might see it. So, but yeah, patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics for that. And yeah, we're back tomorrow for the first head-to-head video with Warney. We've opened up with him with the series for a few years in a row now, so he's back on once again talking McKercher and Bergman. Make sure you guys do tune in for that one. We'll be back some other content throughout the week and catch you next Sunday night for our unofficial Pracky game review. So thanks, everyone. Have a good week coming up. See ya.
Bye.